Hello, fellow writer! In this third video about formality, we will discuss the important rules pertaining to your expression in an essay. In combination with the rules that you have seen in the previous two videos about grammar and vocabulary, you should be able to complete the revisions that will make your draft more fitted for an academic audience. Working on your general expression is an important step in academic writing, because it conditions the way you will interact with your reader. Because you have worked on both the grammar correction of your text as well as chosen the most appropriate words to convey your meaning, you may feel that your writing is complete, but that is not the case. You still need to tweak your essay to make it your own and ensure that you are not only exposing information, but you are also engaging your reader in a serious and interesting conversation. In this video, we will examine the type of expressions that are common in academic communication as well as the pitfalls that you should try to avoid when you complete your essay. The first element to consider is the question of how impersonal your writing should be. Traditionally, experts in academic writing emphasized the importance of using impersonal expressions in formal essays. This is usually characterized by an increased usage of impersonal forms such as there is or it appears. Additionally, impersonal writing can be produced by modifying the statements and making things the grammatical subject of sentences. Finally, we have seen that the vocabulary used in a sentence could indirectly reflect the personal stance of the writer. Forms like "it is obvious that" contribute to generalizing an idea when in fact it is just the opinion of the author. Here are two versions of the same sentence. On the left, you can see the version written with a more personal type of writing. On the right, the same content is written in an impersonal way. You can see that the impersonal version looks toned down. "It appears" is used instead of "it's obvious that." And it also looks more objective. So can we support the traditional view that impersonal writing is better for academic writing? Well, not so fast. In the traditional view, impersonal writing is preferred because it is supposed to emphasize facts and logic. In such text, you will notice that the passive form is used often and that personal pronouns are restricted to the third person. However, when your essay is aimed at exposing your point of view or a more complex analysis, the use of personal writing could allow the reader to more clearly understand what has been studied and who has been studying what. Therefore, the reader will understand more the originality of your work in a more direct way. As a conclusion about impersonal writing, what you should really keep in mind is that you should always choose the clearest way to communicate your ideas. If you want to focus on information, then impersonal writing should be preferred. But if you want to engage the reader more, personal writing could be favored. Now that we have talked about impersonal writing, let's expand this last idea about engaging the reader by discussing the style of your essay. Style is very important because it sets the context of the message that you want the reader to receive. Your essay is essentially a dialogue between you and the reader, and the style you follow for your writing will help clarifying your intentions in that dialogue. Do you want to entertain the reader? Do you want to convince him, educate him, show your reflections? These are all different contexts that can be translated through style. Style is an umbrella term that encompasses some more specific aspects of a dialogue between you and the reader. For example, a scientific essay will often aim at educating the reader about a topic. This will be done using a serious, specific, and complex language that is provided in a very clinical, scientific tone. The personality of such an essay can be described as professorial, as it is not really aimed at generating any particular emotion in the reader. In the case of an essay about the terrible impact of lead poisoning on public health, the purpose will be more to engage the reader and convince him about your point of view. The language could be serious and the tone more personal, in order to enhance the connection with the reader. Eventually, style is something that you will choose personally to transform your essay into a piece of writing expressing clearly your voice and your opinion. That is an important part of academic writing and one that requires a lot of practice and drafts to get right. Now let's talk about the possible obstacles that all writers face when they attempt to clarify their style. One of the major problems that you may face is the use of clichés. Look at that example of self-introduction from a woman called Janet who wants to apply for a position to teach academic writing to scientists. This whole text feels very generic and not very informative because everything she says could be said by any other candidate. Some statements are just vague, like I love challenges, while others are just plain obscure. I'm a jack of all trades. Now look at this other version. This time, instead of using general statements that are not revealing anything about who she is, Janet specifically addresses various facts and characteristics about herself and convincingly makes a case that she would be a good fit for the position. The difference between this version and the previous one is the absence of these sweeping, vague statements that are actually not informative at all. These are called clichés. Clichés are general statements that are usually too vague to provide any clear information. They usually derive from idioms or specific statements that have evolved to be part of a general culture, losing their original meaning. In any case, clichés reveal the author's laziness and should be replaced by clearer, more direct statements. Here are some clichés that are very common in essays. To detect whether your essay contains clichés, ask yourselves whether the sentences you are writing are reflecting clearly and specifically your opinion. If some ideas look weak or non-specific, you are probably using a cliché. How to get rid of clichés? In most cases, if you simply try to talk about your idea in a couple of words, you will probably use some important keywords that you should recycle to replace the cliché. Keep in mind that you should try to be as specific as possible, so use concretely stated ideas. In a similar way to clichés, stock phrases are generic pieces of text. However, stock phrases play a more structural role and aim at clarifying the logical function of the upcoming text. Here is a list of classic stock phrases that are commonly found in essays. For all these cases, you can actually be more concise and express the same idea in one or two words. For the first two, you can notice that both phrases introduce cause-consequence relationships, so we could replace them by because. The third introduces a non-sufficient condition and so could be replaced by although. The fourth introduces a condition, so we could replace it by if. Both the fifth and the sixth could be replaced by about. And the last four statements could simply be replaced by appropriate modal verbs. There are many of these stock phrases that just dilute your sentence and make them unnecessarily wordy. So please be careful. Finally, let's talk about one feature of academic style that is often difficult to integrate properly in early drafts: hedging. Hedging is a way to reduce the strength of an assertion in order to clarify the stance of a writer. It is therefore used commonly when you communicate about your own reasoning or inserting ideas from other writers inside your essay. Hedging can be quite tricky because you have to balance two opposite impulses, making your argument compelling and making sure that your argument is accepted by most. There are different techniques to hedge statements. One technique is to qualify the likelihood of a claim by associating it with an adjective. Another way is to characterize the likelihood of an event with an adverb. The claim can also be introduced using a verb that refers to the perception of an event. These are called evidential verbs. If a claim is a result of a reflection, other verbs can be used, judgmental verbs. Finally, modal verbs are also common hedges. All these techniques can be combined to tune your sentences and introduce your statements with the appropriate level of confidence associated to them. In conclusion, adjusting the expression in your essay is important because it participates in creating a link between you and your reader. The style of your writing will be important to clarify the context of this communication and will condition whether you successfully convey your ideas. Don't forget that the way you write influences strongly how your claims are perceived. Therefore, you need to polish your expression so that the reader understands your ideas in the way you intended. Good luck with the writing!